Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for checking in. I do appreciate it. I will periodically be checking the chat to talk about everything going on. Of course, the biggest news of the day, Major League Baseball is back, which means I'm back, which means you're back, everybody's back. We can finally talk about Major League Baseball in an exciting way. You know, for the past, couple of months, it's been kind of a drag. You know, I don't love talking about money versus money. I don't like talking about whether or not we're going to have baseball. That's not why I do this. That's not the fun in this. And I haven't spoken a whole lot about what's going on, mainly because it's boring to me, so I know it's boring to you. And to be honest with you, when it comes to, you know, what I thought Major League Baseball should do, I wouldn't have said anything that anyone else was saying, that anyone else had already said. You know, so to me, I felt it was better to just see what happens and then reanalyze. So now that we know what it's going to be, which we'll talk about in just a second, I can tell you what I think about it. I can tell you what I think the Braves ought to do. I can tell you what I think baseball ought to do. Now that we know the circumstances that we are in as fans and as viewers of the game. So the notable rule changes, the biggest thing, you're moving to an expanded postseason, 12-team. Now, when it comes to the 12-team postseason, I know a lot of you guys aren't really going to like an expanded postseason. Some of you guys might really like it. Some of you guys may have wanted to go to 14. I'm all right with 12. 14, I was strongly against. I'll tell you why in a second. With 12, to be honest with you, I was really okay with the old system. I liked the old system. I thought it highlighted the teams that did well in the regular season and rewarded those teams that did well in the regular season. 12-team isn't so far off the map that I'm upset about it. 14 I would have been, because to me, 14 is almost half of the entire Major League Baseball population. It's almost half the teams. And at that point, I start questioning, well, what's the regular season about then? Because if almost half the teams make it into the postseason, then why are we playing 162 games to figure out who needs to be there? Now, I get the whole, they get, single elimination. I get all that, but at the same time, reward the teams that deserve to be there by giving them access to the postseason. That's how I feel about it. Not exactly upset about the 12 teams. Glad it's not 14. Wouldn't have been mad if it stayed 10, though. So with that, I think we're just seeing the development of baseball. They're starting to look around and see the popularity of other sports, and they're adapting to follow suit. Speaking of adapting to follow popularity, the universal DH, we already knew this. We knew it was going to happen, but the universal DH will be in the National League. No surprise. Owners have wanted to do this for a long time. To be honest with you, I think most of the players, outside of Max Fried maybe, and Madison Bumgarner, would have wanted a universal DH. This isn't something that is going to drastically impact the game that we're familiar with, mainly because we've become accustomed to the universal DH over the past couple of years. And from a Braves perspective, and this is selfish, but from a Braves perspective, it works well for the Braves because it gives you a perfect spot for Marcell Ozuna. We talked about this extensively on this channel. You can check out some of my more recent videos. The crowded outfield one is a good one to check out. But we've talked about it because it works out. It gives you Marcell Ozuna a spot, right? Not the best defender in the world, can hit, well, from recent memory that we know of, can hit a lot better than he can field, right? That gives him a spot. The universal DH also extends careers. I've been on record as saying that I think that there should be differences in the leagues, the National League, American League. This doesn't upset me, though. I know a lot of the older generation will be upset by this, and I get that. I'm a purist at heart. But at the same time, you have to understand that baseball is growing. It's becoming, it's becoming more current. I mean, you look at the average age of fan bases, right? NFL, I think, is like probably around 40. NBA's 37. Baseball's 57. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they do have to adapt the game to appeal to a younger audience and the casual fan. Speaking of which, the 9-inning double headers are back. I like that. I always like more baseball, and I'm glad we fought to get this back. I hope it wasn't even a conversation. A couple of years ago, Major League Baseball goes to the 7-inning doubleheader to handle COVID, to, I guess, obviously, with COVID, everything kind of shook up, but they shifted to 7 inning doubleheaders. I don't think anybody was that big of a fan. Some players might have liked it, but I don't like seeing 7 inning perfect games or 7 inning no hitters. I want to see 9 inning games. And, I think that is a good thing. I think that's better for the game. And to be honest with you, I don't like people taking at bats from players. Players are trying to reach milestones and records at some point, and you only give them 7 innings a game, they may not do it. Not to mention, the 9 inning games in a doubleheader works out well for Major League Baseball. I don't know if you guys know this, but Apple signed on to take Friday games for doubleheaders. And you can imagine that's why we're going to have 162 games. That's a big reason why we're going to have 162 games. That's another big point. Major League Baseball will have 162 games, even though the season is delayed. They'll make it up with double headers and the next day off, I believe, is what's going on right now. So I like that. I like the fact that we're getting all 162. I like the fact they're all going to be 9 innings. No runners to start on second base in extra innings. Can anybody say a sigh of relief? Because I never liked it. I thought it was a cheap way to end the game. And to be honest with you, I think that's going to better the game. I don't like... I appreciate us trying something new, but I never liked it. You can see that, Major League Baseball wasn't too fond of it because they didn't even do it in the postseason. They knew it was a cheap way to end games, but it was a way to end games quicker and not be 4 hours on TV, right? That's the whole goal of MLB owners and that kind of thing. So I think ultimately the rule changes are fine. For 2023, there is a little bit of difference. You got, added stipulation on the pitch clock, less time, bigger bases, things like that. Those type of things don't bother me. I couldn't care less that the bases are going to be 3 inches all around bigger. I don't care. If it makes it safer, then albeit we'll take it. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. In terms of the pitch clock, I originally did not like the pitch clock. I really didn't like that it was going to interrupt the flow of a game. Baseball is supposed to be a game with no clock and I used to be that way. And to be honest with you, in a lot of ways, I still am. But since they've implemented it, I don't care if it's 15 seconds, 20 seconds. These are such small differences that I think it's petty to argue about it. And to be honest with you, I just don't see a point. So it doesn't bother me that we're getting bigger bases and a pitch clock, at less time on a pitch clock. It really just doesn't bother me. I don't think it's going to impact viewership of the game. I don't think you're going to notice on TV any difference, to be honest with you, unless you're really trying to pick it apart. I just don't see a major impact happening there. But all in all, I think most of the rule changes are good for baseball. In a way, this has been a sad couple of weeks because it interrupted my spring training trip. I was supposed to be in Florida at spring training a couple of weeks ago, and we weren't able to do that. We had to make a plan B. So with that, it's been kind of sad, but on the other side of it, if it betters the game, which, is yet to be seen over the next couple of years, if it betters the game, then I'm all for it, and I think you should be too. Now, what happens now? That's the big question. What happens now? Because we have 200 free agents on the market. Of course, we're very familiar with Freddie Freeman. We are monitoring that as best we can here at On Deck. I've got my Twitter feed open. I've got the hot stove tracker open. I've got just about anything you can think of open, ready to announce that Freddie Freeman is either back with the Braves or somewhere else. So hopefully we'll get an answer to that soon. But until then, we're just going to have to wait. But there's a lot of other free agents out there. Joc Pederson, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler. We've talked about those guys on this channel. Where are they going to go? Can we get at least one of those guys back? Maybe. I think, it's going to be a frenzy, obviously. These guys, you got two perspectives here. You got the owners who want to get their teams situated, and then on the other side of that, you got players who want to get their lives situated, right? They got to figure out where they're going to live, where their kids are going to go to school. They got to figure out all that. I think you're going to see a signing frenzy over the next few days, and I think it's going to be a fun thing to watch. Last year the trade deadline was great for the Braves, but I got a feeling this upcoming opening day deadline is going to be even more entertaining to watch just because it's going to be all across baseball. Guys getting moved, guys getting signed, and all that kind of thing. You may see a trade here or there, but I really think the biggest thing is going to be free agencies because you got a lot of guys that have to figure out what they're going to do. I think it's going to be interesting. I see you there, Jeff Berry, mentioning Duvall. Duvall will be back with the Braves. He is in arbitration talks. He got that done before the deadline. They just did not finalize his deal yet. They don't know how much he's going to be making. I believe it's going to an arbiter, and then it'll be solved. But he will be with the Braves. So that is one guy we can count on to return. But there's a lot of other guys that have to be figured out and have to be, looked at, and, who are we going to get? Who's going to better the team the most? I've mentioned a couple of theories over the past couple of weeks. Some of you guys liked it. Some of you guys really liked it. And some of you guys questioned the possibility of it. I question the possibility of it. I mentioned, could we trade Marcell Ozuna for prospects and bring in Jorge Soler as your DH? I mentioned all this and re-sign Eddie Rosario to be your left fielder. That's the fan in me. That's what I'd like to see, just because those guys turned into be World Series heroes. But all in all, I think AA is going to make the right decision here. But without a doubt, the most notable decision to be made is Freddie Freeman when it comes to the Braves. And to be honest with you, there's been a lot of teams checking in on Freddie. The Braves obviously made their offer, their qualifying offer. But since then, we've heard the Yankees, we've heard the Dodgers, we've heard the Rangers, and most recently, we've heard the Rays. When it comes to the Rays, I don't see that as a possibility. I just don't, because it's not their way to spend big money on one guy, never has been. I mean, this is the Tampa Bay Rays we're talking about here. And they already got Wander Franco on a big deal, right? But he's a young guy that they chose to stick it out with and sign. They already did that. I'm not sure if the offer for Freddie came before or after they made that deal. And neither is really anybody yet. But I don't think Freddie Freeman is going to be in Tampa Bay. I just don't see that as a possibility. I don't see him going to the Dodgers. I just can't see that. I get that he lives in California. I understand it. And to be honest with you, I don't see him going to the Yankees. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the Yankees have shown interest, but they already had Anthony Rizzo last year. I don't understand why they wouldn't just stick with Rizzo at that point. I mean, these are two guys, not to say they're interchangeable. You can always improve. But these are two guys that, if you have one, stick with him. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that with Anthony Rizzo. Maybe they see something I don't. I just don't understand why you wouldn't stick with him. And I think they have other problems, shortstop, most notably up in New York. So we got a lot to figure out over the next few, I guess, spring training starts in a week. So we have a lot to figure out prior to that. We have a lot to figure out prior to opening day, which I believe will be April 14th, I want to say, is opening day. So we have a lot to figure out till then. But I'll propose something to you. Ronnie mentioned something in the chat about Contreras and Pache, or Waters in a package. I was going to talk about this in a separate video, but I wanted to wait till baseball comes back. Here's a sneak peek of the next video I drop. We have stocked up on a lot of catchers in Atlanta. Granted, we went through a lot of catchers last year as well, but think about it. We have Darno, we have William Contreras, Shea Langoliers, Manny Pena as well. So that's already 4 catchers who, in theory, are going to be major leaguers either this year or sometime in the near future, right? So the Braves have a lot, and with Darno, they have him, I think, for another 2 years. They have Manny Pena for another 2 years, and then they have Langoliers and Contreras. Contreras is right on that line of ready to move up to the majors, right? We saw him a lot last year after Darno got hurt, and it was obvious that he's just not quite ready. He is AAA level. He does great in AAA. I've seen him, and I think he's got a bright future, but he's just not ready. And the timetable, I think, has passed him by. So with that, I think we're going to trade a catcher. The Braves, as a matter of fact, the Braves signed a local guy from Georgia Tech, Arden Pabst, to a minor league deal. Granted, all they can do is minor league deals, but I find it interesting how much we're stocking up on catchers, and I really think we're grooming to trade a catcher, because you don't need Contreras and Langoliers. There's a lot of talk about this out there in the baseball world about the Braves possibly grooming to make a trade. April 7th, thank you. But yeah, we've been grooming to make a trade with a catcher for a long time. And think about Pache for a second. At one time, we could have traded Pache for just about anything. I mean, the dude had a ton of value. He was the next big thing, top 10 prospects, I think. I mean, just a huge name. He went to the majors, didn't have the exact success he thought he was going to have, and now his values dropped tremendously. Right now, Waters still holds that value. Contreras has some of that value. I think you could make a package of Pache, Waters, or Pache or Waters and Contreras. Hopefully, it would be Pache and Contreras at that point because Langoliers is making his way up. Make no mistake about it. He's showing off. There's tons of articles out there about him showing off in spring training. There's been a lot of talk about that guy, and I think he's probably going to be your next big catcher. Maybe you see him partner with d'Arnaud in the next, on d'Arnaud's next contract, but make no mistake, Langoliers will be an Atlanta Brave. I am a Contreras fan. I like Contreras a lot, to tell you the truth, but I don't see how he fits into this plan. And to be honest with you, I don't think the Braves are planning on having him much longer. I really think they'd be smart to make a package of Contreras and Pache or Contreras and some other piece and get a starting pitcher or get whatever piece is necessary. If we don't somehow get Freddie Freeman, maybe you trade for a first baseman. Whatever the situation is, he holds value, but not for the Braves. He holds a lot more value out there on the trade market because catchers are a rare find. They really are, and he is a good one. He can hit. Now behind the plate, he still needs some work, and I think they're in the process of working with him on that. But other than that, I mean, this is a guy that holds a lot of value right now, and maybe the Braves need to cash in on it. All right, so let's go through some of you guys' comments as we continue to monitor the hot stove tracker and things like that. Of course, if anything happens, I will do my best to find that out for you and tell you. William, good to hear from you, man. Yasuki Knight, good to hear from you. Hopefully the Braves can get the deal done with Freeman soon. That is from Yasuki Knight. Yeah, I mean, I hope so, right? I mean, I told you a while back I think the Braves need to pay Freeman his money. I didn't think the contract he was asking for was completely unreasonable. I think they should have done it. And I think, hopefully that happens. But I think Freddie's going to be signed early. When the free agency market opens up, and I think it is now, I think it's going to be fairly quick. He's had a lot of time to make a decision as to where he wants to go. I think we all know he'd like to end up back in Atlanta. But I think we all know that, if push comes to shove and there's $100 million difference or a 2-year difference or whatever the situation is, Freddie's going to make the decision that's best for himself. And whatever decision he makes, he's been great for the Braves. Hopefully he's back in Atlanta, but, we'll see. Now with that, hopefully the Braves figure it out and we get Freddie Freeman back. Thanks for that, Yusuki. Monte Cristo, that's my favorite meal at Cheddar's. Monte Cristo says, better late than never when it comes to the 2022 MLB season. Play ball. I completely agree. And I think the good thing about this is I think we all expected games to be canceled, games to be thrown out, and it to be about a 140 game season. I like the fact that we're not doing that. I like the fact that we're keeping 162. We've had enough of the shortened seasons. We've had enough of that. And I'm glad that we're going to have a 162 game season because the COVID year was insanity with the 60 game season. Obviously, the Braves did well in it, but I think if last year shows us anything, it's that a 162 game marathon shows a lot more what a team is worth at the end of the year than a 60 game season would have. Hey, what's going on, Stellar? Good to hear from you, man. William says, does AA sign anyone tonight? Free agents will be flying off the shelf. That's a good point. I don't know if anything happens tonight. Obviously, we're live, so if it does, I'll let you know. But it would be interesting if that was to happen. Look, we were live when Richard Rodriguez got signed last year at the trade or got traded for at the deadline last year. We were live when that happened after Jorge Soler and Eddie Rosario. All those guys came through. It would be interesting. I don't know if he's going to go out there. I'm sure he's got a plan. I'm sure he's got names on a list of guys he wants to go look at. I don't think he signs a first baseman until after Freddie is signed. And what I mean by that is I don't see him going to sign Matt Olson and Freddie's still on the market. I think Freddie is his number one target, and until that's done, I don't see him going after any other first baseman. Now, if he doesn't get him and Freddie goes off to Tampa Bay or Yankees or Dodgers or wherever, at that point, I think you'll see him target a first baseman, but I don't see him going after anybody before Freddie's signed on the first base side of things. He may go get a starting pitcher. He may strengthen up the rotation a bit. That would be nice. Other than that, if it's not Eddie Rosario or Soler, I don't know who he's going to get. We've said before, there's 200 guys on the market right now. So I mean, it could be anybody. I mean, there's been the notable free agents. I saw the long list of notable free agents, but there's a ton of guys out there that could fill that spot. I mean, I'd like to give you 3 or 4 names, but I mean, there's just, I mean, an infinite amount because nobody's been able to sign. And it'll be interesting. But I think, on the flip side of this, I think you may see players that are up for free agency that don't get signed for near as much as they probably should have because they're trying to figure out their livelihood for the next year, maybe 2 or 3, whatever the situation may be. And it might not work out well for the players. Teams may get a hometown discount when it's not a hometown type of deal because players are trying to rush and figure their lives out. And that's kind of, the problem with this lockout was it limited time for teams and players, to make deals, to figure their situations out. So it'll be interesting. But like I said, we'll see. Cole Duke, good to hear from you, man. Who is top priority after we get Freddie signed? Okay, after Freddie, like I said, starting pitching. But to be honest with you, I think before that even, you have to go outfield. Because, I mean, well, let's think about it. You got Marcell Ozuna, right? He's going to be the DH. You got Duvall coming back, and you got Acuna. But Acuna is not going to be there for the first month. So, at least as of right now, right? He may be in there with a delayed season. He may be in there a little quicker than that. But we don't have a whole lot on the bench. We have Heredia. But outside of that, we have Duvall and Acuna in the outfield. And we need a third guy. I'd like to see them go get Eddie Rosario. That's personally, if you're putting a gun to my head and wanting to know, I'd like to see them go get Eddie Rosario. If they went and got Jorge Soler, I wouldn't be mad about it at all. But Eddie Rosario, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Eddie Rosario offers a consistent bat in that lineup when a lot of the other guys in the lineup don't. I love Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall is a 200 hitter. He just hits a lot of home runs. He's a power guy. Ronald Acuna. I think Ronald Acuna and Jorge Soler are virtually the same bat in the lineup in terms of style, maybe not stats, but in terms of style. Eddie Rosario offers up something different, and I think he's a great leadoff hitter, and I think he'd fit into the lineup well. And to be honest with you, if we don't get Freddie back, Eddie Rosario is left-handed. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of lefties in the lineup anymore, so I think Eddie Rosario would be a great pickup for the outfield, wherever you want to put him in the outfield. I think he'd be a great pickup. But again, we'll see. There's 200 guys on the market, and they have a very short time to do it. So it's going to be a frenzy. Even Joc Pederson has said, in recent weeks that it's going to be a frenzy. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure these guys have an idea of where they want to go. They probably were, throwing out feelers prior to the lockout to figure out, where they stand with some of these teams. But there's been a long time in between there, 99 days in between. During this lockout that, teams could have changed their minds, players could have, changed their minds on things and, maybe decided that they're worth more than what they originally said in these conversations. Who knows, right? I mean, there's so much that we don't know and so much that we won't know. But it'll be interesting. I appreciate that, Cole. Jeff Berry, thank goodness they're removing the runner on second rule. I couldn't agree more. I have voiced my opinion on that more than enough times, but again, the game should never be ended in a cheap fashion like that. And I've never liked it. I didn't like it when it was first brought in. I didn't really like it in the minors, but I didn't, that doesn't really impact me a ton. But I really don't think Major League Baseball games should be ended like that. Little League games aren't ended like that. And I don't think it's fair at all that we do that. I mean, it's fair in the, in the grand scheme of things, sure, it's fair. But I'd rather watch a 15-inning game than watch, a great game end on something like that in the 10th. I'd rather let it go to the 15th. And again, I think it says something that they didn't do that in the postseason. They didn't have that rule in the postseason. I think that says a lot about it in terms of how it was taken. And obviously it not being in this new CBA says a lot as well. William Fulgham. Oh, snap. Y'all are texting a lot. Okay. So April 7th is opening day. For the right return, you may see Tucker Davidson or another young starter in a package. That's from Ronnie. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think Tucker showed a lot of I think Tucker showed a lot of potential. Obviously, he started a game in the World Series. He didn't do so well, but Tucker's a guy that we've all been looking forward to. I don't know if you see him. I mean, maybe you might see Kyle Muller, some kind of package, including one of those guys. Maybe, sure. But I think the Braves have always been so heavy on pitching. I don't think they're going to want to trade pitching, especially starting pitching. And if anything showed us in these past couple of years, starting pitching is very valuable. And I think if you have good starting pitching, you need to keep it. I don't think we're going to trade that away. Not to mention, I think Tucker could be a good bullpen piece in terms of long relief for the next year or so while he gets a little bit of major league experience under his belt. Kyle Muller, the same. I think those two guys are your future. I mean, I love Charlie Morton, but how many years does he have left, right? I think he's probably getting up there to where the Braves are going to want to look to their younger guys, and those are the younger guys in the waiting. So we shall see. Jose says, besides, of course, Freddie, which free agents should the Braves target? All you guys want to know what free agent we should target. Eddie Rosario. Dang it. In terms of starting pitching, I guess Carlos Rodon, he's out there right now. There's others, but I don't know, guys. There's a long list of guys. I'd like to see us have a return on Eddie Rosario. But that's really all I can tell you. Mab wants to know, what is Cheddar's? He lives in Atlanta and he's never heard of it. Cheddar's is, it's a chain restaurant, but I live in Columbus, so it's here, and the Monte Carlo is delicious. It's basically a BLT, or it's kind of like a club sandwich on a donut. It's fantastic, and they have that there, and that's what I order there. But it's a great restaurant. You gotta check it out. They do not sponsor me, by the way, but Cheddar's, if you'd like to sponsor me, more than welcome to. Yasuki says, hopefully the Braves can win a game for my 30th birthday this July. Well, happy future birthday. My birthday is also in July. I'll be 23 this year. And I always spend it at Truist Park. This year, I think I'll be spending it actually in Tampa. I think I'm taking a trip for my birthday to Tampa. By the way, guys, I know a lot of you guys, have probably heard that that Tropicana Field isn't worth going to. Don't listen to that garbage. Tropicana Field is great. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, it's air conditioned. Makes a difference, I promise you. We took a trip there a few years ago. It was storming outside, and we got to watch baseball regardless. Also, food there, the prices are a little high, but they're nothing on Truist Park. I mean, they got to get fans in the door, right? So you order a drink, you order a souvenir drink, you're good for the season. Not the day, the season. Free refills. It's really a great time. So I would encourage anybody, try Tropicana Field. But happy birthday again, Yasuki. I think the first baseman market is log jammed until Freddie signs somewhere. It will set the price for the others. I agree, and I think that's what a lot of times happens. I don't believe we've seen much of anything happen today. Brad Peacock got signed, he got traded from Boston to Kansas City earlier today. But other than that, that was a few days ago. So yeah, nothing has happened, and that was on a minor league deal. So nothing has really happened yet, and it's because I think something's got to break through, and nothing has just yet. So until something does and sets that price and sets the mood, to say, I don't think anything's going to happen, especially on the first baseman market, till Freddie's done. That's who everybody's going after, it seems. That's the biggest name out there, but we'll see. Yasuki again says, should be interesting to see what the Braves do this offseason. Of course it will be. It always is. I think this offseason is interesting all around for every team. You look at the list of notable free agents. It's like Clayton Kershaw, Chris Bryant, Freddie Freeman. There's a ton of big names on there. Trevor Story. I think it's going to be very interesting. We've been tuned in to MLB Network all day long. Mab says, Tyler, what do you think about the possibility of the Braves signing a shortstop like Correa, who they were already interested in, or Trevor Story, and then moving Swanson to third and Riley to outfield? Not a terrible idea, but I think Swanson is a shortstop. I think if you have Swanson on the team, he is a shortstop. I'm not saying he can't play third. I'm sure he could, but he is on the Braves to be a shortstop. Riley is on the Braves to be a third baseman. And last year we had the best infield, one of the best infields in the game, and those two guys are a fundamental part of it. They're the whole left side, right? I'm not saying it couldn't happen in another lifetime. I just don't see it happening now. If this was next year, I think you have the potential of not re-signing Swanson because his contract's up next year, and maybe going after Trevor Story if you really want to improve. But I don't think we're going to get either of those guys. I just don't. I think our priority's got to be Freddie Freeman, and we're already questioning how we're going to pay him. I don't think you want to add Correa and Trevor Story into that fold. Not unless you just don't get Freeman. At that point, you might have to adjust. And at that point, you might put Riley at first and move around like that, and then sign 2 outfielders because outfielders are a lot more common. But again, I don't see that happening. It could. I mean, in a crazy world, it could. I don't necessarily dislike the idea, but I think if you have Swanson on the team, he is your shortstop. That is what he is there to do. The combination of him and Albies up the middle has been nothing but success for the Braves. And Swanson, Swanson doesn't get a lot of credit where it's due. I mean, Swanson is a great defender. His bat has been up and down over the years, but he is a great defender. And he's a good player all around. I mean, he hit a homer in the World Series, that a lot of people don't talk about because it gets overshadowed by Soler's. But Dansby has been nothing but a fundamental player for the Braves. And I think he's going to be around for a while. I don't think we're necessarily going to look to get rid of him. Not to mention he's an affordable guy. I think he might have a hometown discount on the fold next year to stay in Atlanta. I think staying in Atlanta is very important to him, just like it is for Freddie. I think you're going to see Dansby around for a while. So I like the idea. I'd love to get Trevor Story in another lifetime. I enjoy his game. Don't really want Carlos Correa. He's a great player. Out of those two, I'd probably pick Story. But even then, I just don't see it. Thanks for the question, though. Jose, should we sign more relievers? Do any names come to mind? It's interesting. The Braves bullpen it's different because at one point last year, we thought the bullpen was the weakest part of the team, and then we didn't really upgrade much at the trade deadline. We got Richard Rodriguez, but outside of that, we didn't do a whole lot at the trade deadline. We went and got bench players and outfielders. We just did not do a whole lot there. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. And then, lo and behold, the bullpen turns out to be the strongest part of our game once we hit the postseason. So it's hard to say. Did they find something in the postseason last year that they're going to, bring into the next year? Did they find something that helped them? Was it Joc Pederson? What was it, right? We don't really know. Was it a flash in the pan? Was it a one-time thing? We really don't know. I would like to add, but we already did add. I mean, we got Kirby Yates, right? I think that we have to analyze once we get to spring training. And to be honest with you, if we get a reliever, I got a feeling it'll be at the trade deadline because I think you got to start the year with what we have because we have so many other things to target right now. I mean, look, it could happen, but we have first baseman we got to go get. We got outfielders that we got to figure out what we're going to do with. We just have a lot of other things to target. I don't think relievers is necessarily the biggest thing. Now, I will also say that with relievers, we don't necessarily have to have as many bench spots as previous years because we do have a DH, so we can carry an extra reliever, right? So with that, I mean, maybe I don't have any names that are coming to mind necessarily. Maybe Mark Melancon, but there's nobody out there that I gotta have. I mean, if you could go get Josh Hader, I'd give you my paycheck to do it, but I just don't think there's anybody necessarily right there that makes sense right now, and I don't think really upgrading the pen is the biggest priority. Yasuki. Oh, do you see Mike coming back this year? Yes, I do. Mike Soroka. I do. When it comes to Soroka, obviously it's been very up and down over the past couple of years. He was probably our ace a few years ago, and definitely would have been. He would have been right there with Fried. Obviously, injuries got in the way. Hopefully, this year will finally be the time where he comes back. Hopefully, him and Acuna come back and are ready for opening day or shortly thereafter. I mean, the delayed season has actually worked out well for the Braves in a lot of ways because it's going to give those guys more time to heal, more time to be ready, and I'm not going to be mad at all about that. And I think he's coming back. I don't think there's a question there. But at the end of the day, who knows, right? I mean, unfortunately, I'm not there with Mike every day checking his, ankle. I just don't know. But we'll see. Mab back again says, instead of Rosario or Soler, I would rather sign Seiya Suzuki. I hope I'm saying that right. I believe I am. He can play center field, and he is younger and cheaper. Spectacular numbers In Japan, Rosario and Soler can't play center. Sure, but that's what we have Ronald Acuna for, right? I don't. The thing about it is this: Shohei Ohtani proved that. I mean, he wasn't the first to prove it, but he proved that Japan, the transition from Japan to America is, they have good players, okay, and Seiya Suzuki is definitely one of them. But Ichiro Kor. I mean, there's names out there that we know of. I just don't know much about him, unfortunately. Like, I don't get to watch a ton of Japan games or Japanese games, so if that was to happen, I would be very intrigued. But I got a feeling the market's probably already really looking at Seiya Suzuki, and the international market's really been out there a lot in terms of these talks between the Players Association and Major League Baseball. So there's a lot of conversation being had about it right now, to tell you the truth. I just don't see the Braves being that team to pull that trigger and do it. I think the Braves will probably stick to either the guys they know or guys that, again, makes sense and are affordable, among other things, right? That's what I think makes sense. In terms of Rosario and Soler can't play center, I think, Duvall can, right? Acuna can. I don't really, if you got two guys that can play center, I don't really see a problem, in having two guys that can't. I just don't. Don't get me wrong. I like, the ability to move. But again, I don't think that's necessarily a necessity. But look, if we got Seiya Suzuki, I'd be very excited as well. I would love to see Joc back with the Braves. That's from Jeff Berry. I think everybody would like to see Joc back with the Braves. The problem is he's not going to want to come back to be a bench player. He's there to play every day, right? That's why he ultimately left the Dodgers. That's, he went to the Cubs, and, the only reason he didn't play every day in the latter part of last year was because he got traded to the Braves. So I don't think he's going to return to the Braves unless it's in a full-time role, and I don't think the Braves are ready to offer him that. But I'd love to see him back. I love his attitude. I love the letter he wrote last year. Obviously, I love the language he uses and the phrases he uses. But I don't see it necessarily happening. Dustin Laughs says, "What do you expect to know about where Freddie? When do you expect to know about where Freddie is going, and who is going to be the first big name free agent to sign?" The rumor is that Freddie will probably be the first big name. The other rumor is that it'll be in the first 48 hours. We are now 2 hours in, and we don't know yet. So I think it'll be quick. I think Freddie will be the first one. But I mean, trades and free agency. The market is weird. It works in cycles. It's not a consistent. This guy's going to sign here. It could happen at any moment. It could happen overnight. I mean, there's really no telling. I wouldn't be mad if it was at any point. I think as long as we're able to get it done, and we, meaning the Braves, as long as the Braves are able to get it done, it'll be nice. But Twitter is exploding right now with guys talking directly to AA about, you need to sign so-and-so, you need to sign so-and-so, right? I mean, people are talking about sending him instant messages, and I think that's hilarious. Sorry, I'm checking my feed to make sure nothing's going on, but nothing is. But again, I think Freddie will be the first one, more than likely, maybe Correa. But those are the two biggest names out there. The other flip side of that is you may see some lower name guys get signed just because less risk. The market hasn't gone to them, because a lot of times the market will go right after the top guys, right? And they'll move down. So then, you give all your money to the big guy, you don't get him, and then it's all your money to the second rung, third rung, fourth rung, fifth rung. Maybe some guys go after that fifth rung before other teams get to it, right? So you may see some lower level guys, some guys that, some guys that would, surprise you, right? I mean, some guys, I think Starling Marte was one like that a couple years ago. Just guys that aren't Chris Bryant. Guys that aren't Freddie Freeman. But guys that can fill a role. Mab, hey Tyler, what do you think about the Braves going after Chris Bryant? Here we go with this again. He could play outfield. He could replace Freddie at first. He could play third and move Riley to outfield. Swiss Army knife. There has been so much talk over the past few years about Chris Bryant to the Braves. A lot of you guys want him, and I'm not saying I don't. I don't see him playing third. I don't see him playing first. I mean, I think he's either a third base. I think he's either third base or outfield. But But if you get him, Riley's going to the outfield, right? I mean, I just don't think so. I think if we're going to get anybody, it needs to be Freddie. He's the face of the place. I just don't see it. Trey Peck, when do we suspect deals to start happening? It could be right now. I mean, it could be the next 5 minutes. It could be any time. I mean, I'm going live with the hope that something happens. If it does, great. If it doesn't, we'll go off and we'll react in the morning if something happens overnight. But I mean, it could be any moment. I believe the market's open, so at any point it should be able to happen. I'm monitoring, like I said, but other than that, I mean, there's just not a lot we can do except wait. Mab, Tyler, is it just me or was Max Scherzer exceptionally whiny this CBA negotiation? He even voted against this CBA, but 86% of players disagreed with him. This is why I don't like talking about, money versus money. I really don't. It's why I haven't commented over it in the past few weeks. Something that I think you need to realize about Scherzer, and I was talking to somebody this morning about this. Scherzer is not fighting for himself here. He's not. I get you saying he's whiny and all that, but he is not fighting for himself. Scherzer has made his money. All right? I mean, look at his contract right now. He's made his money. He's not fighting for him. He's fighting for the next generation of players. And, it's never going to look good when guys that make millions of dollars are saying they don't make enough money, right? That's never going to look good. But I think you have to take into consideration the minor leaguers that aren't making hardly anything. The guys that, barely get paid, don't get paid all year, that kind of thing. That's who they're fighting for. The minimum salary of Major League Baseball is $700. All right, $700,000. That's what it is now. It was $550 or $560. But even then, that you're not even considering the minor leaguers, the guys that never made it to the show, right? These are guys that aren't in school, could be in school, guys that are scrapping to get there, and hardly making anything or living off, whatever a team gives them over a 3 or 4 month period, whatever it is, I've known some guys personally who struggle to do it, who work odd jobs. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have to do that, but that's who they're fighting for. Guys that quit the game because they can't afford to continue. And those are the stories that, make me take a step back and realize, hey, maybe they're fighting for the right thing here. And look, there's never a side that's going to be completely perfect. I can tell you that at some point I've looked at the players like, come on, guys, just come on. Let's move on. I've looked at the owners a lot, over the past few years. What are we doing? Why are we stalling? And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that on March 10th this is settled. I think that says a lot about all the guys involved. They got this done quickly because the first month of Major League Baseball is the least profitable of the year. I was thinking, well, maybe the owners will just wait till it's a month in and only pay the players for the last 3 or 4 months and not, the first month of the season because those games aren't as profitable, and then they'll only pay the players for the games they played. I'm glad that didn't happen. I mean, we're getting all 162 in. Everybody's going to make their money, and it's solved. But we'll see. Freymorg asks, glad baseball is back. Freddie or Olsen, who do you got? Freddie is number one target, without a doubt. I don't think there's any doubt that Freddie's coming back. Olsen is our next step. I think that's how it's going to go. But that's really all there is to it. Dustin laughs, says Monte Cristo at Cheddar's, not Monte Carlo. Sorry, I don't get to go there very much, but I love the Monte Cristo. I apologize. Yasuki Knight says, oh, okay, cool. You're welcome. Sorry. Let's see. Coke Dude USF. What were you saying about Tropicana Field? I was not talking bad about Tropicana Field. I was talking all good things. It's air conditioned. It's got good food. It's got cheap food. Free refills for the season if you get a souvenir cup. Anybody that's trying to go to Major League game on a budget, go to Tropicana Field. It'll be a great experience. I promise. I'm headed there in July, around the 27th and through the 30th, I think. But again, I got to look at the schedule and figure that out. But yeah, I will be headed there. So if you're there, I'll see you. Francis asks, what do you think will be Enoa's role? I think Enoa's a fifth guy right now. And when I say fifth guy, I mean that kind of not necessarily in that order, but I think he's the back of the rotation guy. He may pop off, but with him, it's interesting because he did so well at the beginning of last year, and then he got hurt, and he was up and down after that, right? If he's completely healed, is he completely back to where he was at the beginning of last year? Who knows, right? I mean, it's going to be hard to tell because we've seen Noah at his worst, we've seen him at his best. This is the year I think we figure out what Huascar Noah is, pending injuries and that kind of thing. I think this is his year to show his value. So we'll see. But for right now, at the start of the 2022 season, I think he's the back of the rotation guy. If you're wondering what I think the rotation is going to look like, obviously I think it's going to be Fried, Morton, depending on whenever he returns. I'm not sure on his status. I hadn't really heard anything lately. But I think Fried, Morton, Tucker Davidson somewhere in there maybe. But that's why I think we need to go get another starter. At the end of the day, I view Enoa as back of the rotation. But he might have a bigger role in the beginning of the year because we might be down Soroka still, right? We probably will be down Soroka still. We got, a transitional period with some of these pitchers with, Tucker Davidson, Kyle Muller, that kind of thing. Ultimately, we got Ian Anderson too. So to me, I think it goes Fried, Morton, Anderson, right? I think we know that. Postseason was nothing but that. So Fried, Morton, Anderson. After that, you got two spots that you're going to be fighting for. Enoa's going to have to fight with Tucker Davidson and Kyle Muller and, whoever's left in the rotation pool. And then outside of that, I think they go to the pen or to the minors. So it'll be interesting. Jameson, the number one priority is to get Freddie Freeman back to the Braves. Couldn't agree more. Trey Peck, Freeman, Rosario, Soler. Let's get another starter. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I'd love to get all three of those guys and add Carlos Rodon, or maybe trade for another starter. If we can get another starter, I think our rotation at that point would be one of the best in baseball. I mean, if anything, Morton's got to come back healthy. That's the most important thing. But ultimately, we shall see. Mab, why would you rather have Story over Correa? That's pretty against the grain. Most people strongly prefer Carlos Correa. I'll be honest with you, I just really like Trevor Story. I'm not going to say I dislike Carlos Correa. I mean, he's probably a better player. I think Trevor Story would fit in with the Braves a little more. I think he's from around here too, so that kind of adds on to that. I'm always, if you're a local guy, I think the probability you come into the Braves is a little bit more strong. I want to say Trevor Story is from around here, or at least from the South or somewhere near it. I'll find that out for you. But look, I like Carlos Correa just fine. The stuff with the Astros a few years ago is pretty indifferent to me at this point. I'm kind of past it. It's unfortunate. Yeah, he's from Texas, so not necessarily the South, but he is a Southern guy, and I think he might play well in Atlanta. But it doesn't much matter. But when it comes to Correa, I think he's going to get paid. I think he is going to make tons of money from whoever is the highest bidder. I don't think he's looking to come and compete with the Braves. I think he wants to go to a team and let them pay, much like Alex Rodriguez did with the Rangers a few years ago. That's his mindset. I just don't see us doing that. Look, Carlos Correa is, again, probably the better player. I think most people would say it, but I think the probability of one coming to the Braves is definitely in Trevor Story over Correa. Jose says, thanks for answering all the questions so far. Oh, good Lord. What do you think the Braves should do with Tookie this year? That's another one of those guys that's right there with Kyle Muller and Tucker Davidson, guys that have had good success at times and other times not. I like Tookie. I think Tookie's a good pitcher at times. I think he's shown days of greatness and days of not so great. I really thought there for a while he was going to be, a fundamental part of the rotation. Earlier last year, I mean, it looked like, okay, we're depending on Tookie now. And he just never really got over that initial hump. He'd have a good day and a bad day. But I think Tookie could be a good starting pitcher if he could be more consistent. And that's, where he's at. That's where all those guys are at, though. That's where Tookie's at. That's where Tucker's at. That's where Kyle is. Ian's biggest thing, I like Ian just fine. He is a very consistent pitcher, but he's consistently not going past the fifth inning, or sometimes not even the fourth. I need a starting pitcher to go a little longer than that. Our pen made up for it in the postseason, But as Ian grows, I want to see him go further in games. I don't think there's any doubting that, right? And I think the same goes for a lot of those pitchers I mentioned. Going longer in games and again being consistent. That's Tookie's biggest thing is consistency. Good question though. Jameson also add on. Oh, Darren O'Day with a minor league contract could be another under the radar signing. Under the radar is the perfect way to describe Alex Anthopoulos' mindset in terms of going and getting guys. Look, who would have thought that Pablo Sandoval would have been near as successful as it was with the Braves, right? It didn't last, and I get that, but that was an under radar thing that probably won the Braves 4 or 5 games this year. In terms of just specific moments where he was brought in as a pinch hitter, or at least put them back in, competing with the other team. I can remember the Phillies homer he hit, I think in extra innings. I can remember a couple of homers where it was just, there were panda heads all over Truist Park. That was one. Then you look at the trade deadline. Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Joc Pederson, all under the radar guys. Richard Rodriguez, another one. And I've said this, I know Richard Rodriguez didn't make the postseason roster, but Richard Rodriguez did stabilize the bullpen in a lot of ways. He ate up innings for a long time. Those were under-the-radar moves that really worked out for the Braves, and it's all because Alex Anthopoulos did that. Darren O'Day is another one. I think a lot of people were surprised that Darren O'Day took a minor league contract. I think you're going to see him on the major league roster for sure. I think he took a minor league contract because he wants to get situated. I think, O'Day is one of those guys that's a veteran. He's probably going to make around $1 million just about anyway. So for him to just go ahead and say, okay, I'll do a minor league deal. If I make it to the majors, I'll make $1 million. We're good. He's going to make it to the roster, obviously pending performance, but he's going to make it to the roster. I think that was a smart move on both sides to get him locked in and to compete again. I mean, Darren O'Day is not exactly an easy guy to hit against, and I'm glad to have him back. Yeah, so, I like that move. Again, I think it's an under-the-radar move again, but we'll see. Colt Duke is back. Do you think they take it easy with Acuna, not letting him steal, for example, considering Soroka's double tear of the Achilles? I don't know if take it easy is the right word. I don't know if Acuna is the one making that decision or not, but Acuna will probably be the guy who ultimately makes the decision whether or not he's going to steal, right? I mean, Ron Washington's more than likely making that call. I don't know if that's how they're going to handle it. I think it all depends on how he's coming back. I mean, he will not be the first one to come back from this, right? I mean, he might not be. We don't know what he's going to look like yet. We don't know what his speed is. I've seen him hitting in the cage a lot. He looks great in the cage. He looks just fine. But I don't know if he's going to be as fast as he was, if he's going to be, able to move like he did, or near as flexible, whatever the situation is. It's hard to say, right? I mean, you would hope that they kind of ease him back in. They don't necessarily just go, okay, you're back, do everything you used to do, right? Like, I don't think you can expect that of him. And I don't think we're going to have to expect that of him. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of questions in here. I see them now. Do you think Acuna is going to be the same? Jeff Berry asking about his speed. I see those. Like I said, I mean, it's hard to answer, right? I mean, if I was his trainer, I could tell you. But I don't see him every day. I mean, I see what you see on Twitter, him hitting and, the highlights of him doing workouts or whatever. But, other than that, I mean, I'm just as blind going into this as you are, unfortunately. Jameson, okay, might have already answered this because I came here late. What is your feeling of the Freddie Freeman being re-signed with the Braves? Oh, yeah, I answered it all right. I think Freddie's going to be back. If I just had to put money on it, like, do I think Freddie? I think the odds are in the Braves' favor. I do, and I think a lot of people would disagree with me there. Freddie does not strike me as a guy who's going out to get the most money. I think Freddie wants to compete, but he wants to be paid fairly. I think the contract he asked for was more than fair, but we'll see. I've answered it so much tonight. I'm sorry. I just think Freddie. I think Freddie's number one priority. I think that's obvious. But ultimately, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to see. But we will find out. I think in the next 48 hours. Jeff Berry, Ozuna for DH. Don't disagree. I mean, I think that's why the Braves signed him to a 4-year deal because one, we all knew the DH was coming. We knew the new CBA was coming. So did the Braves. I mean, it only makes sense that Ozuna fits that mold. I don't think they assumed he was going to be playing the outfield for this long. And he is locked in for 4 years. So unless they can trade him, he will be your DH. But yeah, I mean, I'm cool with Ozuna being the DH. But if there is another possibility, I'd like to see Ozuna maybe traded for prospects. And then we re-sign Soler and not have to pay Ozuna so much. Sean Sports Cards just bought tickets for the first home game. Let's go. I don't know if I'll be there, but I'm sure I'll be at my fair share this year. So you guys have fun there, and hopefully I'll see you at one point or another. Francis says that former Brave Odalis Perez passes away. Rest in peace. It's a little bit, yeah, I mean, it's sad. I think I heard about that the other day, and that was obviously a sad situation. Of course, the best to his family and all that. But moving on, Eddie Robertson, time to defend this title this year. Eddie, it's funny. I saw a tweet the other day. I've seen a bunch of these, but congrats Braves fans. You're going to be forever world champions because it felt like the season was never going to start again. Obviously it's going to be time to defend this title, so we'll see. Mab, Tyler, it was the lower salary guys who disagreed with Scherzer and voted for the CBA while he voted against it. They aren't minor leaguers, but minor league baseball has its own union, and Max Scherzer can't vote for them. Sure, like I said, I think it says a lot that Scherzer was even there. I don't see Scherzer arguing over a couple million, right? I think Scherzer's arguing for guys below him, right? And I think all those guys genuinely want the best for baseball. They want the best for the baseball players, and they want the best for baseball's future. That's my point there. I don't know the specifics about who voted for what, but Scherzer's an odd guy. He is a different type of human being than we're normally used to knowing. It's hard to say. I haven't really dug in deep on who thought what at the CBA meetings. I don't really care. I really just, and I know that sounds bad because I run a baseball channel, but hear me out. I really just don't care about, I want the best for baseball, whatever that is, whatever they decide. But I don't care about who thinks what, and at that point it's politics, and it's not my game. I am in it. I will talk all day about how much a player is making and why it's wrong or why it's right. But I've never cared about, in terms of who thinks what and why, I don't like getting into that. But sure, I mean, I get your point. I don't know about Scherzer. I can't speak on that. But we'll see what happens in the next, couple of years and see if this was better for baseball or worse. I think right now I'm going to believe that it is having a good effect. Do you believe in the Coors Field effect? Flaco5, that sounds like a rapper name. Do you believe in the Coors Field effect? Yeah, but not to the point. I mean, obviously the Coors Field effect is real. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But I mean, science tells you that, right? But I don't think it should keep someone out of the Hall of Fame like Todd Helton. I don't think it should be valued to the point where we're making a player not seem as good, because he plays at Coors Field. I don't think that's fair. Trevor Story is a very good player. Coors Field effect is real, but you still got to hit the ball. You still got to make contact. You still got to do all the right things, right? We'll see. I mean, play Coors Field at MLB The Show. Tell me what you think. I mean, it's definitely real. But like I said, I don't think it should keep anyone out of the Hall of Fame just because they played with the Colorado Rockies for 17 years or whatever Todd Helton did. Jameson, Kyle Wright get a fair chance to get on the rotation, especially with what he did and some big-time spots in the postseason. He did have a good postseason. I don't know how consistent he'll be. He'll be another one of those guys right in the fold with Tucker and Kyle Muller and, Enoa that's fighting for a roster spot, maybe in a trade package at some point. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I think anytime you have a rotation, there's very few times, especially in today's game, where a rotation stays the same, right, for the majority of the year. It's very rare. A lot of times it's an ever-flowing thing. The Braves have seen that more than just about any team, right? I mean, we've seen guys come on the rotation, go back to the minors, because we have a lot of young guys. We don't have 5 established pitchers that are our rotation. It's just not built that way right now. We have fundamental faces. This year it was Max Fried, Morton, and Anderson, but beyond that, ever changing, right? So the rotation is going to be a very interesting thing. Yusuke just said he can't wait to see the rotation this year. You're going to have to look a few times. If you check from April to July, I think you're going to see some changes. So it's going to be interesting. I'd like to see Soroka come in and be consistent and be a guy that we can count on. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to expect of him, but I'd like to see that. Maybe, because that would be 4 right there. That would, cap off, right? And after that, it's a 5th spot, and competition, works the best. So we'll see. Flaco 5, is there still any drama? Oh, Jesus. Is there still any drama between MLB pulling the All-Star game last season? No. I think MLB would be smart to put it back in Atlanta in the next few years, just to win some of those fans back. I mean, drama is not really the right word there. Maybe some bitterness. I certainly am still not thrilled about that happening. But no, I don't think there's any ongoing drama. I think the fact we brought 3 or 4 World Series games to Atlanta, I think that helped a lot. And I think it kind of made MLB step back for a second, because they punished a fan base that had nothing to do with it. Any of the prerequisites there had nothing to do with that. They punished a team that had nothing to do with that. They punished an organization that had nothing to do with it. And I think it was a bit unfair, to be honest with you. But also, I don't think Major League Baseball had any business being in that. And I think they realized it's been a mistake, to tell you the truth. But aside from that, there's no drama there. We all like baseball here. I'm going to like baseball whether it's in Atlanta or in San Diego or Pittsburgh or wherever. But at the end of the day, I think there's probably some bitterness between the city of Atlanta and Major League Baseball, but that's for another day. Jose, do you think Riley could repeat his success from 2021? Absolutely. I think he could improve and even sneak into the top 3 for MVP. Did you not see my video that Austin Riley was the economical MVP? If you didn't, you need to go watch it. I'm telling you, Riley was a guy who I thought was a legitimate candidate for MVP this year. You compare his numbers to Harper, and you look at, this doesn't have anything to do with it, but you look at how much they're getting paid. Riley was the MVP. Guy was consistent all year long. If the Braves had an MVP for the 2021 season, Riley would have been it. Riley would have been the guy. On the Braves, and they're the World Series champs. He was good in the regular season all year long. He was great in the postseason. He's been improving since he got there. And a lot of guys, I was one of the few people, and I'm going to take credit because I don't get it very much, but I was one of the few people that, at the beginning, defending Riley, because he was a guy that, had all the success early on, had 18 homers in a month, and everybody loved him, and he fell off, and everybody hated him. I knew that if he got, experience under his belt, that, he's going to come around, and he's done nothing but that. And he's been, phenomenal at third base, in the batter's box. Everywhere. He's been great for the Braves. So, yeah, I think he can improve. If he just continues to do what he did this year for another 5, he'll be an MVP candidate. The guy had all the stats this year, but the name value wasn't there. And the MVP, unfortunately, a lot of times is a popularity contest. Bryce Harper... I think Bryce Harper obviously has deserved it over his career, but I don't know if he had the year to win it this year. But he did, and he is the MVP. But I think he could certainly be an MVP candidate. Moving on from that, Yasuki wants to know, do I see Ronald winning the MVP? Ronald has all the potential in the world to win the MVP. I think he could. This year will be interesting to see if he, if that were to happen because of his injuries that he's going to be coming back from. But we'll see. It's hard to say, right? All these guys have potential, right? Tatis has got potential to win the MVP. Acuna's got the potential to win the MVP. It's just who shows up at the right time. Tyler, should the Braves even consider going after Kershaw? Wow. I think he would be very expensive, and I'm not sure he's even healthy. I'm not sure Rodon is healthy either. They both ended last season injured. Yeah, didn't Kershaw, a big reason supposedly the Dodgers didn't beat the Braves in the postseason last year is because Kershaw wasn't healthy. I mean, I'm not making that excuse, but a lot of other people did. You know, I don't think you want to give a lot of money to a guy that's older. I just don't. You know, Freddie. I mean, Freddie's a little different. You know, I'd like to see us pay Freddie, um, but I don't see a point in paying a guy like Kershaw. Don't get me wrong; he is a legend that is still playing, and I get that. Uh, but Kershaw is a guy who, you know, he is a living legend, but he's a guy that I don't think has a future in this game for too much longer, and I think he's going to be very expensive. Not to say it wouldn't work for the Dodgers, not to say it wouldn't work for some other team. I just don't think it's the smartest thing for the Braves. Uh, yeah, I mean Rodon, I'd be a little bit more on Rodon. I don't know what his situation is. I just know he's one of the top starting pitchers in the market right now. That's the only reason I threw his name out there. So don't quote me on that. Also, Mab says, Tyler, am I the only one who definitely does not want the Braves to go after Michael Conforto? He wants way too much money. He was terrible last year. Mostly, I don't want to give up draft compensation, too. Yeah, I'm not big on Michael Conforto. I don't think he's a terrible player. But again, I'm not ever big on tons of money. I just am not. That's why, frankly, you hear me give Alex Anthopoulos a ton of credit on this show. I will tell you how much I like Alex Anthopoulos with the Braves and the decisions he makes because I see other teams make bad decisions. I saw the Phillies do it a few years ago. Okay? And, you know, when they went out and literally it was quoted as saying they're going to spend stupid money. They said that. And it was stupid. Right? They said it themselves. It was stupid. Make no mistake. I appreciate the fact we have a general manager who doesn't do that. Right? He'll spend the money if it makes sense. The only mistake that we made was Ozuna, and nobody could have predicted that. So I like the fact that we go on these short-term deals. We give people chances to, go get their contract, and then we cut it loose. Freddie's the only one that I don't want that to be with, right? Ozuna, it made sense at the time. Hasn't worked out yet. Maybe it'll work out in the next two. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to necessarily say no to Conforto, but I'm good on that, honestly. I don't want to give anybody tons of money if they're not worth it. I don't know who you are, but you speak a different language. Thank you for your comment. Trey Peck. Nope, I agree with you. So no Conforto. Yeah, Trey Peck agrees. No Conforto. Flaco, great response. Thanks for your answer. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Make sure to tell your friends and of course subscribe. Mab, Tyler, were you surprised Derek Jeter left the Marlins? The owner said he asked him to leave and would have fired him if his name wasn't Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter expects excellence. There's been a lot of talk about this since it happened. I'm not going to say I was surprised that Jeter went to the Marlins when it first happened, but I was a little surprised. I always thought he'd be an executive for the Yankees. Granted, he did give them the Marlins' best player at the time, but it is what it is. I think I might have lost you guys on the webcam. Give me just a second. There we go. Am I back? I think it got unplugged for a second, so hopefully I'm back. So at the end of the day, I was surprised to see Derek Jeter left the Marlins, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if he wound up with the Yankees next week. I mean, I don't think he necessarily wants to get out of Miami. I don't think he wants to get out of baseball. But we'll see. It's interesting with Jeter. It always is. Who knows, right? Sorry, guys. I'm trying to make sure that we are good here. I think I'm still on. I see that I'm back, but I want to make sure. Marlins, all credit due to them, have not competed really. I mean, outside of 2020, where it was a 60-game season, they haven't competed. They haven't spent money to compete. They haven't gone out and done things to be competitive in the division. The Braves proved that they could compete. With all of what the Braves lost, they were able to compete. And I think, Jordan, they've compared him a lot to Michael Jordan. Jeter, I think Jeter's looking around and is, probably wondering, hey guys, like if we're not going to compete, then what are we doing? And probably a difference of philosophy, I'm sure. But it is what it is. The owner coming out and saying that he would have fired him probably should have stayed behind closed doors. And that's a professionalism thing. But other than that, I mean, I'm not surprised necessarily. It is what it is. Flaco says, thanks for your responses. Good answers. Subscribe. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I work pretty hard on these. I really do. I'm glad that we're back and I can do some content because I don't like sitting around and not talking about baseball. I'm glad it's back. I'm glad we can even talk about possibilities of trades and stuff. That's what I enjoy, right? The banter with you guys. Hey, what are the Braves going to do? What's the trade going to be, right? Even though sometimes I don't have an idea, I like that you guys want my opinion. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here. So thanks for subscribing. Again, tell your friends. It makes a difference here at the channel, and it always does. Courtney Conaway, how long until Freddie breaks our hearts? Don't say that. I mean, don't do that. I mean, look, I think Freddie, honestly, I think Freddie's coming back. I do. I want to think that Freddie is coming back. If Freddie doesn't come back, I would genuinely be surprised. But with that said, I mean, Freddie can go anywhere. It's up to Freddie. If he wants to take a bit of a pay cut, maybe come back for 180 over 6 years, I think he'll be back in Atlanta. If he wants to, if he wants to be in Atlanta, he will be. That's what Chipper Jones said, right? And you guys can value my opinion all you want. I value Chipper's. Chipper knows Freddie significantly better than I ever will. And Freddie, if you haven't seen it, Chipper's quotes on Freddie coming back possibly are pretty interesting. So you ought to check that out. But aside from that, I mean, I think Freddie's going to get signed in 48 hours. I've said that a good bit on this live stream, by the way. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. All that good stuff. But, yeah, I think it's going to be within 48 hours. I think Freddie's going to be your first big name guy to go. Carlos Correa maybe shortly after. There's a lot of people that want Freddie Freeman on their team, and rightfully so. He's a stand-up guy. He's a good player. Probably the best first baseman in baseball right now. Guy that can impact your lineup immediately if he got to your team. I mean, there's reasons teams want Freddie, right? We know that. But we'll see. Okay, Jose. We're getting into personal questions. A little off topic here, but which Braves jerseys do you own? Is there one that you would like to get, and which player? Oh, gosh, I got to think. I have 2 Necros. I have a throwback baby blue Necro that's not signed. I wish it was, but it's not. I just got that one. I have a baby blue Murphy. I have a road gray Necro that is signed. I mean, that's the thing. Are they signed or unsigned, right? I have a Chipper that's signed. I have an Acuna that's signed. I have another Acuna. I have 2 more Acunas that are unsigned. They're 2 different styles. They're the old style and new style that are both unsigned. I have a Maddox 1995 jersey. I got so many. I got a Glav, I want to say. Man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm drawing a blank. I got a Bob Horner signed. I got an Ozzy Albies signed. I got a Rudy Rudiger Notre Dame jersey signed. I'm kind of trying to look at it. Aside from that, I have Miguel Cabrera signed. I'm sorry, I have a ton. But, there's a bunch of them. Mab says, Tyler, do you think the Braves are in on big starting pitching trades like from the A's or Reds? Guys like Sean Manaea, Chris Bassett, Frankie Montas, Sonny Gray, Luis Castillo, Tyler Mahle. Who would you prefer? Oh, you're throwing so many names at me. Oh, Sonny Gray would be nice. Luis Castillo would be nice. I'm a Reds guy, kind of. I got a lot of connections with the Reds. I like the Reds. Those 2 guys interest me. Sean Manaea interests me. But I don't know if we're in on any trades. I mean, we have a package that could do it. I really think so. I mean, we could do it. But yeah, I mean, gosh. Sonny Gray, Luis Castillo, Sean Manaea. Those are the 3. But that is what it is. He also asked, Tyler, did you do Phil Necro's final interview? I don't know if I did his final interview, but I know I did one that was kind of career reflecting in a way. And it was in the later years for sure. Phil meant a lot to me. Phil did a lot for me too. I have a picture right there signed by him with a letter he sent me. So yeah, Phil was very good to me. A lot of good memories with Phil on the golf course. Riding around in the golf cart, hearing him tell jokes over and over again, throwing rubber snakes at people, things like that. I mean, he was a very good man, and he's of course missed. I do wish that the Braves, since he brought it up, I wish the Braves would do a little more with it, and embrace him a little bit more. I know with the loss of Hank Aaron, our focus was a little drifted there, but I mean, the 35 on the back of the hat was nice, but just put some Phil Necro jerseys in the clubhouse shop. I mean, guy's a Hall of Famer. He spent 20 years with the Braves. That's just me on my soapbox today. But yeah, so I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. If you have any last minute questions, get them in now because I will be heading out here fairly soon. So with that, get them in. I'm trying to hang on. I'm going to check the Twitter feed and that kind of thing one last time and make sure nothing's going on that's big. But I don't see anything. As of right now, yeah, so we'll see. I wish I could stay on all night, guys, but I can't. I will say that, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm looking at my phone, and this is an interesting tweet. It's from the MLB Players Association. Can you guys see that? I hope. And it just says play ball. So I think that's where we're going to finish is play ball. That is the perfect way to put this. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. I'm heading out. One last time, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with your friends, all that good stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these streams as we continue throughout spring training, throughout the regular season. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more opportunities to talk about baseball. One last thing before I go. This isn't baseball related. I'm sorry. I posted the other day on my Instagram. So by the way, go follow me at BubblegumJesus on Twitter and Instagram. But I posted on it the other day that, I went to an AEW show, which is All Elite Wrestling. I love baseball. No question about it. I love baseball. I have a second love for pro wrestling. You might have seen a couple interviews I have where I've interviewed Triple H, Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie, Mr. Wrestling #2, a couple of guys like that, old timers. Saturday, hopefully I'll get a couple more. I'll be going to a wrestling show in Dublin, Georgia. I wish I had the graphic to show you right now, but I don't. Luke Gallows, if you're a wrestling fan, this is Gallows and Anderson. Luke Gallows is hosting an event in Dublin, Georgia, right outside of Macon. It is, I want to say, Saturday at 6:30. Let me confirm that, but I believe it's at 6:30. Arn Anderson will be there. Hopefully I'll be able to score an interview with him. That will hopefully be on the channel next week. But if you'd like to go, I encourage you to go. You can check out, I'll have try to put a link in the description. But of course, I'll be there. If you recognize me, of course, say hello. But again, that's Dublin, Georgia. I think it is Saturday at 6:30. Again, Saturday at 6:30. Tickets are just $5. I mean, this is a great event. You might get a chance to meet Arn Anderson, and the Rock and Roll Express will be there as well. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good thing, and make sure you're there. But of course, that's pro wrestling. We'll have plenty of baseball following as well. So appreciate it, guys. Last questions. Let's see. Matt, thanks so much for chatting today, Tyler. It was great. Nothing yet. Yep. Thank you. Bill Gates. You got to change your name, man. You're going to make me slip up. Bill Gates says, what is Acuna's health at spring training? He can hit. I've seen him in the cage. He can hit. I don't know about fielding. I don't know about running, but I know he's swinging the bat good. Jose, how excited are you about what Rob Manfred said that every team will have at least one series against every team starting in 2023? It will be super exciting. I think baseball has missed that for a long time. Chip Carey says that all the time, and I agree with him. I mean, I'd like to go watch the Angels play the Braves every year. I mean, that roster, right? And that's any team, really. Jameson, you're welcome. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Mab, I love pro wrestling. Truth be told, I didn't care about it until I started following you. I love it now. I don't even talk about it that much. Believe it or not, I didn't play baseball in high school. I wrestled in high school. So that's kind of, my love for it grew. It's a different sport, different world. But, Yeah, I have a second love for pro wrestling, and I'm falling back in love with it with AEW because it's just a little bit better of a product in my opinion. But yeah, so we're gonna check out with that, Jose. Thank you, I appreciate it. That's gonna be it, guys. Again, thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys later. Deuces.